Oasis tours were always about the struggle anyway. The incident in Paris, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, really. And I remember sitting in the car outside the fence of the festival site with my security guard, and we kind of sat there for 5 minutes, and the engine was running, and I was in the back and he was in the front, and he turned around and he said, "What are we doing? We're staying or going?" And in that instant, I was done with it, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm done with it now. And I just said, let's go, you know. And the driver pulled off, and that was it. And I didn't feel a sense of relief, because I knew there was a shitstorm coming. And, you know, there was going to be a lot of nonsense talked about it. You know, one of the biggest bands ever going to, you know, have imploded finally. And I couldn't go back to England because the press had descended on my house, and my missus was there with my kids. So we had to kind of spirit her out in the middle of the night, and they came to join me in France somewhere. And then when we eventually got back to England, of course, fucking hell broke loose. But it's not a decision that I took lightly, you know. I'd been in that band since I was the last to join, but I was in the band since 91. And so it was 20 whatever years it was. And I'd written every meaningful song that was ever recorded by Oasis. And it was my life, you know what I mean? I directed it, and creatively it was my thing. You know, with the benefit of hindsight, it was the best thing for me and for the band, I think. Because the band now, right, Oasis back in 2009, were not lauded as one of the greats of all time. And, you know, there was a kind of undercurrent of, well, they should really call it a day, you know what I mean? That's what I felt anyway. And I felt that people had stopped listening to the records and were coming to see us trot out the hits. And it's a position I never wanted the band to be in. But now, of course, we're seeing that up there with all the greats. So I had no plans. I mean, I guess subconsciously I was always going to make a record. I mean, what else am I going to do? I can't. I'm useless at everything else. But I didn't know when I was going to do it or how it was going to be. And I went to bed one night thinking of nothing, probably thinking of City or some shit like that. And then woke up the next day, and I remember kind of my chatting to Sarah while she was getting ready in the bathroom. We're having a conversation between two rooms. And she just said to me, "Well, anyway, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And when your missus says that to you, that means, right, I'm fucking bored of you now. I've been around the house for a year. What are you going to do, you know? And I was like, well, I suppose I'll make a record. Usually when a band breaks up, it's usually the singer that kind of goes on to sometimes bigger and better things, right? It's never usually the guitarist. The guitarists usually have their little hissy fit and then try and get the band back together when they realise that no one's fucking interested in what the guitarist is up to. But the advantage I had is that I'd sang on three number one singles, I think. So people knew what my voice sounded like, so it wasn't going to freak anybody out. I had a bunch of songs, not a full album's worth, which was going to be the next Oasis record. And like I said, I didn't have a band, so I booked a studio and just went at it song by song. And even then, you know, I was like, I remember coming home from the studio one night and I was passing Shepherd's Bush Empire, and I was trying to, you know, they have the band's name above the door, trying to visualise my name above the door, and I didn't see it. But I just felt, look, my songs have got to be twice as good as everybody else's, because I'm a shit salesman. I'm a dreadful salesman. And I'm not that great as a frontman. And I'm not that great as a singer either. So my songs have got to be fucking really amazing. The records have got to be great. Most of my energy was focused on making a great record. And still to this day, if the records are great, everything else is a bonus. Somebody once said that art is just what you can get away with. So when I was on that first tour, and it was great, and I really grew into it and loved it, you kind of get a sense of your audience and what you can get away with, you know, and I just started to not go mad, you know, but things like Riverman and The Right Stuff and The Ballad of the Mighty Eye were all really forward thinking and were not connected to the past in any way. It wasn't until I wrote an album as a solo artist that I started to use different instrumentation and different influences and sing differently, and then when we got to Who Built the Moon, that just exploded another thing. So you're kind of thinking, wow, this is challenging even for me, but that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. And you've got to be fearless, and you've got to fucking front it out, and you have to be not scared of ridicule. So when I was doing Black Star Dancing, which is one of my favourite things I've ever done, and it split my fan base down the middle, it's actually a good thing, because it challenges you and them, because you've done so much of the same thing for 20 years. You knew exactly when you were making a record in the 90s what it was going to sound like, how the tour was going to be, how it was going to be received, blah, blah, blah. It was, you know. Now, I only say that with hindsight. At the time when I was in it, it was like fucking amazing. I didn't know there was another life outside of it. Now, looking back on it, it was really, it's like you're in a artistic straitjacket. And I actually don't think now when I go in the studio about the past or what's it going to mean to, you know, the Oasis hardcore fans. It never, ever, ever crosses my mind. The only time I think of that is when I'm writing out a set list for a gig and I look at it and it's 21 songs and there's like Don't Look Back in Anger on it. And I'll think, yeah, I might want to throw a few more in, you know. How much are the tickets? Fucking hell, about half the world away in. Really? Throw Wonderwall in. It's a challenging thing in the way that it never was in Oasis, because Oasis, like I said at the top, was all about the struggle within the band. The music was tailored for its surroundings. It was stadium rock. It's kind of easy to write, you know. Then getting out of that, it's like taking it to different directions. It was a challenge and still is, and I've loved it. I've loved it. When lockdown was announced, none of us really knew what that meant, because of course none of us have ever lived through a pandemic before. So initially it was like, oh wow, fucking hell, what does that mean, you know? And then it, you know, obviously it was going to be 3 weeks, then it was going to be 3 months. After 3 months, you kind of realised, hang on a minute, this is fucking serious, you know. But it's almost like somebody had designed a virus to fuck up my life. It's like I'm only interested in about 6 things. Football, shopping, music, travelling, going out and getting pissed, and my family. And all those 6 things were fucking just wiped out for a year, over a year. Now, creatively and professionally, it's been amazing. I've written way, way more than I would have. I co-wrote with 5 people in the first year. I never co-wrote with anyone, ever. Oh, I was too busy, I can't be asked. But because you kind of sat at home, you not really got an excuse, you know what I mean? I don't really think you'll find a creative person would say they've had a shit lockdown, because your world tends to be inside your brain anyway. The flip side of that, of course, is as a family, it was just fucking awful. You know, you know, my kids homeschooling. They just moved to a new school, and then lockdown happened, so they didn't have a chance to make any friends. That was heartbreaking, and one of my kids has still not got over that. That was heartbreaking. You have to feel hopeful for the future, because what have you got? You know, you can't just accept. We're in here in a theatre today. This theatre is dying. The theatre industry is dying. Live music is dead. Who knows when it's going to come back? You know, nobody knows. That's the thing. The government won't give anybody in the arts a roadmap out of this, because they know that we're going to fuck them at the next election. So they're not interested in what we want. When I was writing the first initial batch of Oasis songs, I was writing about my life at that time. And when you've done that, and because you're in the same circumstances as the people that buy your records, you're kind of singing about them as well. That's what made it magic. But once you've come out of those circumstances and, you know, you've fucking loaded, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to kind of relate to your audience, I always felt. And you don't want to write songs about your fabulous lifestyle. It's fucking shite. So for a few years I struggled with that. And then I remember thinking one night, well, what is it that is real to me? And then I kind of went back right to my childhood, you know, and was writing songs vaguely connected with that. But my musical taste was formed early on. I don't think I'd be who I was if I wasn't a Mancunian. But I didn't, you know, I didn't come out of the womb, you know, and pass me the fucking tennis racket and start jumping around in front of a mirror. I was not really interested in being who I am until like mid-20s, you know. I didn't sign a record deal till I was 27. Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison died at 27. Kurt Cobain died at 27. You know what I mean? So I was just revving up at 20. I was just getting going. So as a late developer, you know, I didn't really learn, I wasn't really interested in the guitar or learning to play it until really fucking late on. It wasn't like this uber focused, we're going to fucking do it this way. That wasn't until I wrote Live Forever that flipped everything on its head, and then I thought, wow, now that is a great song. And if that's a great song, I can do another one. And then the flame of ambition just fucking went berserk like an atomic bomb, and we were going to be the greatest thing since, you know, freeze-dried noodles in a fucking pot, which we were. But like the common denominator running through it all would be the Beatles, the Jam, the Smiths, the Stone Roses, the Happy Mondays, and Acid House. I'd say all of my entire musical output would have an influence of either one or more than one of those elements. So the songs on this show were quite difficult to come to this point because we've been rehearsing now for 2 weeks and started off doing all the hits, okay, for want of a better word. And it kind of wasn't moving me in any way. And I remember going home one night and looking at the list of songs and thinking, actually, that's not where I'm at now. I initially wasn't going to do any Oasis songs, and I was going to do a few, and then I'm just doing one now, The One. I was trying to give people a flavour of what it is now, you know, because what it was 10 years ago is fucking not what it is now. You know, it's mad how fast it's changed after Who Built the Moon and doing those EPs. It's crazy how it's changed. And I'm still in that kind of spirit at the minute. I like the fact that I'm at a place musically which has no definitive set list. Like some bands, when they do a TV special, they're going to trot out what they're going to trot out. You know where it's going to be. What is a hit record these days anyway? I mean, it's like the charts are shocking, you know. I had the real displeasure of listening to the top 40 rundown in lockdown, and I was kind of just fucking looking at the radio like that. It's just the same fucking song 40 times. You know, my legacy with Oasis is set in stone. That's done. That's what David Owens' whole thing was like. You've done that. Don't worry about that. That ain't going anywhere. You know, you wrote Don't Look Back in Anger, for fuck's sake. And Wonderwall in the same week. If that doesn't make me exempt from wearing a fucking mask, I don't know what does. You know, I don't chase it anymore. It doesn't. I couldn't even tell you if any of my singles on that album have even been in the charts. I don't even fucking know. I'd imagine if they have, they've been right down the bottom, but I couldn't tell you. I don't know how many records I've sold. it doesn't interest me in the slightest. I don't have any problem reconciling with the past. Oasis was the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life to me. Ever. I never will be. To be on stage in those mega gigs that we did and seeing it, and, you know, to say we just started on from, you know, fucking off a council estate, South Manchester, to get that big. It's the most incredible thing ever. But I don't pine for it. I did it. I did it. And I did it well, and I gave it my all, and I'd like to do something else now, thank you very much. So now I can reconcile with it. You know, it's not like when I go to a gig and someone's asked me to sign an autograph and they're giving you, you know, 6 Oasis CDs and none of High Flying Birds. I'm not launching them across the fucking street, you know. You know, the fact that that group is so embedded in people's lives is an amazing, amazing thing. 99% of the songwriters in the world would want what I've had, you know. But it's not something I think about. So I'm not a slave to it. I used to get frustrated on my first tours. People were just constantly shouting out, "Slide Away," and fucking. I didn't even sing Slide Away, so what are you shouting out for? Now, just like, shout all you want. You know, as I've said to an audience many a time, I'm playing the songs that are on this fucking list here, right? None of them are fucking Slide Away, right? So, you know, this is my sales pitch to my crowd, right? It's like, if you don't like it, next time I'm in your town, don't fucking come. I have one regret. It's not really regret. I don't really live by regrets because you can't change them and they'll eat you up inside. But if I could somehow magically go back and rearrange a narrative after Nebworth and then that subsequent American tour that imploded, we went straight into the studio, which was fucking madness. You know, we were still, Morning Glory was still #2 in the American charts when we went in to record Be Here Now. If I could go back, I would have taken 5 years out at that point and just let that whole thing land and then have started again. But, you know, you've got to be cool to think like that. And we weren't cool. We weren't. We were just guys from a council estate. So that would be it. I would have taken 5 years out, and hopefully at the end of that 5 years, I would have found another stream of influences. Whereas from Be Here Now to Don't Believe the Truth, if I'm being honest, pretty fucking forgettable. Bar the odd tune. The driving force, I mean, it's quite sad when I think about it. I'm not interested in anything else. I've got no hobbies. I can't drive. I can't fucking swim. I can't cook. I'm shit at everything. Bar this thing. You know, I have no other interests apart from City, football, and my family, and that's it. Like, if I've not written a song for a while, I've got that many thousands of hours of experience now that I know that eventually something could be round the corner and will be round the corner, and I've just got to be there every day. I liken it, songwriting is like fishing. And you're fishing every day, and sometimes you don't catch anything. Some days you catch 3 little fish, and so you're waiting for the big one, you know, and that's what drives me, is because, you know, once you've written a great song, then the atomic bomb goes off in your mind, then you go, oh, wait till a fucking crowd fucking get hold of this, fans hear it, and wait till the band hear it, you know, and then you start to write it and refine it and chip away at it, and it's a magical experience that only yourself goes through, and it's difficult to explain to people, and it's difficult for them to understand when you do explain it, because I suffer from the thing that I make it look so easy. Like, people think it's a piece of piss. My missus thinks it's the fucking easiest thing in the world. Oh, just go write an album. Oh, okay, just like that, yeah. The future now is more about the experience of doing different things. And some things that I've done for the experience, I've been fucking shit since I've left Oasis. But some have been great. Some things I would never have even contemplated had I not been in this headspace. You know, like when we did the Joshua Tree tour with U2. You're going to say, what are you doing that for? I'd like to be there, see what fucking, you know, it'd be amazing. What are you talking about? Oh, really? What, opening up for you too? I was like, well, for a start, they're friends of mine. For secondly, one of my favourite bands ever. Thirdly, we're fucking amazing. We are great. But in the overall terms, I'm happy with where I am now. But if 5 years from now I was still in this place, I don't think I'd be very happy. Something will have gone drastically wrong in my life, I think. But I don't think it'll ever get like that. It's what I do. It's what I love doing. You know, there's so much shit in the world now that if you can create, then you should create, because Lord knows there's enough darkness in the world and people need it in their lives. And I'm lucky enough to be able to provide it. So I do.